All right. Can you see if...
I've still got the thing on. It's not working.
All right, let's try this again. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Mad Mamluks. My name is Sim. Along with me are my co-hosts, Shaykh Amir
Assalamu alaikum.
and Mort. Welcome to the show, everyone. Before we get started, help us out on patreon.com/the Mad Mamluks. Every little bit helps your show directly. Your contributions directly help keep the show afloat. We are always grateful to all the Patreon subs and everyone who's always helped the show out. And can't thank you enough for that. Make sure you click on the old like button and smash the like button is what I should say.
Smash with the E.
Like how Habib says it.
Smish.
Smash.
Smish. Smish. Smish.
And throw a comment in the comment section below with your thoughts. All right, let's get the show started.
Wait, before we start, can I just share this to my social media, bro? So we can get everybody in before you drop the big news.
What's the big news?
I don't know. It's just some big news, you know?
I wish there was big news.
How's your guys' recovery been since the ICNA convention?
Are live.
Dude, I was so sleep deprived, man.
Yeah, I slept a lot as soon as I came back. Then I went out and ate more because my parents were having a barbecue. We ate so much. So anyone who doesn't know what's going on, we were at the ICNA convention in Baltimore. We were the esteemed guests of ICNA, and who could decline ICNA? When ICNA calls on you, you just go.
You go.
You don't ask questions, you just go.
Questions.
So, alhamdulillah, you know, the conference, I think we got there Saturday. I didn't sleep all night because I thought I would oversleep. We had an early morning flight and I couldn't sleep at all. And when we got there was a little mix up with the hotels, and then we got that sorted out, and finally got maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours of
about
sleep.
An hour and a half, yeah. You slept about an hour and a half, yeah.
Yeah.
I slept about an hour and a half too, almost, yeah.
Then we got to business. We started recording episodes with notable esteemed guests such as Imam Siraj, Wahaj, who else?
Tom Fakine.
Tom Fakini.
Hamza.
He said like
Fakine,
Fakini.
yes. Fakine.
Hamza al-Habashi.
Yes, which was great. And we're going to have all of these individuals on again, inshallah.
Yeah.
On our own platform and our own recording.
I think out of all the guests, I was the most amazed and most impressed by Hamza.
Really?
Hamza.
At 21
it was very
years old,
inspirational.
To have memorized the entire Quran, know the 20 different riwayat, and to have ijazah, and the level of maturity at that age. No, but that level of maturity at 21.
He was a whole different level. Yeah. He's one of those people you talk to him like, dude, what did I do with my life?
Even you, Shaykh?
Even me, Shaykh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, bro. The guy is 21 years old.
Mauritania,
doesn't matter.
India,
he's 21 years old.
He struggled. He got bit by a scorpion.
21 years old.
Yeah, but when you were
he
like
did what
22,
some people did. It takes like 10 years to do, bro.
But when you were like 22, you were in the deserts of Mauritania, right?
It doesn't matter, man. I didn't have anything.
I mean, you were like hustling and
Anyways, let's not make this about me, bro. Let's make this about Hamza, okay? But we're gonna get all these individuals on again. For me, the most I've never been like, I hate to say this like a fanboy, but the most starstruck I was by Imam Siraj Wahaj, bro. I've never been starstruck by anybody on the podcast, and I usually generally am not. But when you get a chance to interview and just sit and have a conversation with Imam Siraj, and then he brought the 80s and 90s back to us in the episode where he was kind of like getting into that raising his voice thing, and I was like, oh, it's happening, and then it was just Mort kind of cut through it, and I said, I think you were a little starstruck too, and Mort was asking the intelligent questions.
Yeah, I think I had to like push through because I see like Sim and like Amir like
smiling, looking at him,
like just in awe. What's mashallah? I mean, I don't get me wrong. I was also honored, and it was deeply appreciative that we were able to meet with him, especially since he was our first guest and he was a little bit late, but he was tired, but he made time. And
the chillest individual I've ever had. I think, so chill.
You know, to be fair,
for those who don't know who Imam Siraj Wahaj is, because we have a lot of international listeners.
Who doesn't know who that is, though?
Some people don't.
No, a lot of international people have no idea who he is.
And the new gen, some of the new gen have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know who Malcolm X is, you probably have to know who Imam Siraj is.
I honestly was wondering, after Malcolm X, I think Imam Siraj is the most influential Muslim in America, in North America.
More than Hamza Yusuf?
No, I think.
You mean as far as black scholars?
I think he's on par with Hamza Yusuf. They both are right up there. Because, think about it.
I mean, I don't think there's a person on the face of the earth who doesn't know who Hamza Yusuf is.
No. But in terms of building up society or communities, I think Imam Siraj Wahaj did what no one else did.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, there's no comparison.
Like, he would come out to people's communities, no matter how small or big they were, and do it free of charge. There was no honorariums back then.
Back then, they didn't even pay for your travel.
I think they paid for his travel.
Sometimes they didn't pay for his travel.
In the early days, these small places, these imams would drive down. Like they wouldn't take a flight. Like these things were not. I mean, later on, it started becoming like that. But some of these people, they would say, "Okay, Shaykh, you know what? Let me see if I can get a ride down with some brothers who can come down and drive down with me." And their collective would come, and other masajids in the area that maybe wanted to do some fundraising, they would jump in together in a van. They would come down together, right? But the idea of giving honorariums and flying out tickets and putting them in hotel rooms, this was unheard of. In the early days, Imam Siraj would have to probably shack up with someone in the community who would allow him a place to stay.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just how it was.
Well, I remember our episode with what was it? It was when he was talking about the Al Maghrib story. How Noman Ali Khan used to sleep on people's sofas. Mm-hmm. Like when he traveled around the country, it's like he would just be staying at someone's home, sleeping on their sofa or something. Mm-hmm. Like people think like celebrity scholars and stuff, but there was a lot of hard work. It's kind of like when you hear about comics and stuff. When you hear about their road to stardom, a lot of times they were going to different towns and performing at different that
happens a lot of professions. I know what you mean by the comics and stuff, but that happens to a lot of people, man. They got to backpack it, they got to couch it, they got to do all that until...
It actually reminds me more of UFC fighters.
Yeah.
Like they have to give up... They don't know where that check is coming from. They just know they're passionate about something, especially in that case, it's fighting. In this case, it was their dawah, and they were...
In a small group become superstars.
Yeah, and then like when they make it, everybody wants to know them. Right, everybody wants to be around them, invite them, and do this, and that circle becomes very large, but also very complicated. But coming back to what Sim was mentioning, regarding community building, I don't think that even Hamza Yusuf is on level with Imam Siraj Wahaj. I mean,
he's got stories. Imam Siraj got some stories.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine he worked with the New York Police Department to run a crackdown on drug houses and shut down 16 or 12, I think, drug houses in his area in New York. Right,
with bodyguards, armed bodyguards, and all that.
I mean, they put the work in on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and so that kind of community building, and he's with the same Masjid Taqwa that he founded.
Yep.
He's with the same community. He's still the same Imam.
Yep.
He deals with the same people for the last
cleaned up that whole
years.
area.
Yes,
that whole area. People like drug kingpins were trying to kill him and assassinate him.
So and not to mention also the nation was still active in that area and they had their gripes, but. Point being is that when you have grassroots activity for 40 some odd years in one community and have lasting results, I don't think there's another person in America that's done that as far as a Muslim figure. Sure, Hamza Yusuf has built a university and things like that, but as far as grassroots, because let's be honest, not everybody can attend Zaytuna, not everybody can afford to live in California, and so Imam Siraj Wahaj is on the ground, in the middle of it all, right? So before there was Iman, before there was Ta'lif, before there were all these different groups, that it was literally Imam Siraj just makeshift, like with whatever they could find to make it work, they did it.
That's right.
Yeah.
But all in all, it was a great experience. We got a chance to live with each other again temporarily in a hotel.
Yeah.
Me and Sim shared a hotel room. Mort was in the baller hotel room, mashallah. But
one of the most important things I came away with, because it was my first ICNA conference after a long time, and I was just blown away that there's so many practicing Muslims.
Oh yeah.
I was so happy to be among Muslims who actually like you go to. I mean, not to put down other conferences, but it just seems like for example, the ISNA conference is just a lot. Everyone goes there. You could be any kind of Muslim, you know. But in terms of being around practicing Muslims, people who actually take their deen seriously, I was really like taken aback. I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm not seeing any haram here.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that compared to some other conferences which shall not be named, there was certainly a lot less free mixing and just, you know, generally speaking, you know, when you go to some of these conferences, you see a lot of young people hanging out, flirting, talking, whatever. But this was done, I mean, that environment wasn't there. And I don't think that it was because they did anything strict. I don't think it was their intention to necessarily do that. But I think it was the people, the quality of the people that attended. Yeah. Right? MashaAllah, tabarakallah. They had a certain adab, a respect. There was nothing crazy that we saw. There was no, like, nothing crazy liberal, nothing crazy, like, off the back, you know, even at nighttime. Because me and Sim and Shaykh Amir were riding around scooters at nighttime, and we didn't see anything like that was, you know, oh my God, I can't believe this Muslim is doing that, right? I mean, so, yeah, alhamdulillah, that was really heartwarming to see. Even the bazaar was not as you know, as some other conferences, like you know, like
it's just toned down.
Yeah, it was toned down. That's right. Yeah, I mean, there was no crazy blasting music or wild shows or, you know, crazy boots of any sort. So alhamdulillah for that. Alhamdulillah. I mean, I was proud.
Every sister I saw was wearing a hijab. I don't think I saw it.
Yeah, from the single.
I did, but again, that's not the conference's fault.
Oh, I'm
right?
just saying 99%.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was.
Of course, it's going to be one outlier somewhere.
Yeah, you're right.
But I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I thought you didn't see a single one.
I didn't see a single one, but I'm sure there was probably one or two somewhere. You guys are, you know, always got your eye on that. That kind of.
Well, you know, you're going to notice.
Wherever fahisha is happening, you guys seem to know where that's happening.
I would notice that.
Ahl Medina doesn't.
No, because I consider myself to be like the Hisba, like, you know, like the
secret police. Yeah.
Like, you know, I was gonna go around and say, sister, please, there's young men here. You know, fear Allah.
Shaykh, it seems like you had an interesting time being at the convention with me.
I had a very interesting time with you. I like traveling with you. We traveled with the Safina Society.
Share some of that. What was your takeaway traveling with Sim?
When you know, at the Hilton, waiting at the booth in
the reception, lobby. Sim, I didn't actually think he was gonna go to this extreme, but everywhere where I went, there was this young brother. Do you remember his name? I can't remember his name. Really good, Masum looking bacha, bro. And Sim just starts embarrassing me. He's like, you know who this is? This is Sheikh Amir. You can look him up. Sheikh, would you like me to hold your bags for you? Would you like me to do this for you? He goes to the lobby, the reception. Oh, that was a mess. So he's VIP.
So I was acting like Sheikh Amir's Mureed the whole time. So I was like basically telling him, Sheikh, let me carry your bag. So like right in front of people to really
he's getting everybody involved too. There's another guy named Amir, like two guys behind us. Your name is Amir? Oh, this is our Sheikh. His name is Amir too.
Wait. So literally, we were like, when Sheikh was walking, we'd stand there like this.
You did that. Sim would just do other stuff.
We would like say, go ahead, tafaddal ya Sheikh, tafaddal, and we would ask, like, you know, it was kind of funny because Amir would get really embarrassed, and then so Amir retaliated in one fashion when we met the new brothers. We had a meetup of brothers in the Northeast, the ones that we could contact. I'm sorry for the ones that I missed. My internet was shoddy, but anyways, so he went on the offensive. He was saying that this is Sim, the Amir, the deserts of Medina. He's here to lead us.
And I had to get my revenge somehow, bro. But who goes to a hotel and asks his lady there, hey, he's VIP, do you know who he is? He's like our priest or something. So she has no idea what he's saying, bro.
She's the lady at the Hilton, what's it called? The concierge, I don't know what they're called, the receptionist person. I'm like telling her, like, we got the executive suite for him, right? And she's like,
there are no executive suites here.
Like, no, we don't have executive suite. I'm like, but you know who he is, right?
You know who he is.
No, I don't.
I was like, Sim, stop. Bro, it got to a point where I had to go away from you and hide at a pillar. And this guy, you know what he starts doing to me in front of everybody? Sheikh, come back, Sheikh. And then he's just pointing at me. He's like... I was like, this is embarrassing. I can't. And I told him, I was like, Sim, this is not happening, bro. You're supposed to be my friend. And then the other dude behind him got involved and was acting like Sim to me. I was like, oh my god, bro. He's like, Sheikh, come on.
It was so funny. The guys in the back, they started joining in on the
thing. That young brother, especially that young brother, he was like, you know, you're the Sheikh. We have to listen to you type stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, bro, this is over, man.
You know what was really So I noticed that most of our listeners are not listeners on YouTube. They are listeners on the podcast format. And so the second day we were wearing the Mad Mamluks t-shirts. And everyone's like, oh, Mad Mamluks. I listen to you guys. I have no idea how you look. Can I take a picture with you? And we were walking to the bazaar. I think you were busy with your sister that day.
Yeah.
And Sim was doing... Oh, this was like during... before our meetup when he was about to do his class. And... yeah, I was just walking around, and like, yeah, so I had brothers take pictures with me, come to this booth, come here, and it was nice to see that people, not that I care about like fame or anything, but the appreciation that people had for the content. They like keep up the good work, like we love the content, and that and that's real. To be honest, to content creators, that's really important. It's not because we need the praise, but it shows that hey, what we're putting in, the work that we're putting in, the hours, the money that we spend, the dedication that we put in, because for being... What is it, 6 years now, Sim?
7 years.
7 years, and day in and day out, like we don't miss very much at all. Like I think we have a 99.9% attendance rate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as far as showing up for doing a show, I mean, whether it's everyone's busy, right? People have life, family, vacations, whatever. Just even when I was in Buffalo, like we found a way to make it work, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that the content actually benefits some people was heartwarming. Like it was really important to know that people appreciate the work that we do.
Yeah, man. Especially the brothers, man. The young brothers, Muhammad or Kamal, Muhammad, Ammar, those guys. When I met those brothers, bro, Javier, shout out, mashallah, Mamadou, those guys, man. It was that like made me feel like there's a good group of devout younger bros that are gonna hold the fort down, man. Mashallah, it's a great feeling.
Yeah, and me and Sim have talked about this too, and we talk about how there's some other channels that have like explosive growth, right? And mashallah, we were happy for them. But one thing we pride ourselves on is that our core group of listeners, like everyone that subscribed to us, listens to us.
Yeah.
Like it's not just like some, casual subscribe because they saw a short. Like they have actually listened to episodes. And we like to think that our listeners are people that are people who think, who critically think, and who have a passion for actually these topics that we talk about, and they're trying to navigate their way as Muslims. And I think we're honored to have a very unique group of listeners where they actually actively engage, and they think, and they provide feedback, and they're not afraid to call us out if we say something wrong. And I think that level of that expectation that we put forward is something that our listeners, mashallah, they stick to, and it resonates with them. So alhamdulillah, we're grateful that we have so much support in a place that we've never been to, like in the Northeast, that much. I know you guys went out to Jersey one time, but just at a conference, it was nice. It was nice to see that.
Yeah, that was good, man. Alhamdulillah.
Any thoughts, Sim?
No, I always wonder, like, well, how much effect are we having? And then, I see, brothers, just like how Amir said, where, you feel hope for the ummah. You're like, oh, great, these guys are, and I want to think that, when you look at the comments of many of these big YouTube channels, you just see that, like, you see a level of thinking that it's not very impressive. You don't see people really listening or intelligently listening. And when I met some of our listeners, I was like, wow, they're actively listening.
Yeah.
They're engaging with it in their head. They're like, I'm sure like some of the questions those guys had, like they were like sitting and they're like, oh, if I ever meet Sim or Shaykh Amir, I'm going to ask them these questions. Yeah. And
Ammar had a Rolodex of questions.
Yeah. There was a lot of questions. All the brothers.
Yeah, I mean, not to throw shade in any of their shows. I mean, this is just purely the listeners. But like some of the other comments, you'll see like, oh, first, second, third, like they'll put like, oh great, oh look at, they'll be having a whole side conversation in comments away from the subject matter of the material, of the video itself. So we're grateful that people who listen to us actually, they engage the conversation, because that's what we're ultimately trying to do, right? We're not, at least me and Sim are not experts of anything. Shaykh is mashallah an expert, but we just we're hoping that we can just start this conversation, and to be fair, what they mentioned about the young generation, and that kind of reminds me of what Imam Siraj Wahaj said. Remember we were talking about certain things about how the kids are growing up and things like that, and he's like, listen, this is beyond us. It's you guys. Like you guys have the torch now. Like how to handle this. We don't.
And I loved his humility. Yeah. He's like, I don't have an answer for you, man, but you guys, we paved the way and you guys got to take care of it.
Yeah.
Because he's used to that work ethic of just taking care of stuff that's in front of you for the future.
Yeah.
So he did his part, you know what I'm saying? So he's like, I don't know how to answer your question, how to deal with all this extreme left stuff that's happening and how it's infiltrating Muslims, but this is up to you guys. So respected that a lot, man.
It definitely, I mean, the whole thing does charge you. It gives you some more juice. You're always, like this past Ramadan, I was telling you about, guys have been past few weeks I've been telling you guys about the story of Noah and how much I've been kind of thinking about that, and how he was doing dawah for hundreds of years and he didn't have any success, and so I was thinking about myself. I'm like, well, what if I didn't have any success?
Yeah.
Like, what if the Mad Mamluks didn't have any listenership and and it was just falling on deaf ears? Would you give up?
Yeah.
And then and I'm like, after first saying no, I'm like, yeah, I probably would.
That's going to be a beautiful attachment for you, man, because you named your son Nuh. So that's going to be like a forever attachment for you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's not. I mean, the whole idea is not about naming my son, or it's all about all the stories of the Anbiya. There's incredible lessons in there that we're just overlooking, and we've made them stories. And there's so many wonderful narrators of stories. I can't even begin to be, but there's many people who have done a wonderful job in narrating all the stories of the prophets, right? And it almost becomes entertainment, and that's what upsets me, because the lives or their stories are not being dissected and applied to. I firmly believe and I think the Quran even talks about it, that the Anbiya were sent as an example, not just for their own people, for all of humanity, for each one of us to reflect on their personalities and their trials and the different struggles that they had,
To strengthen the resolve, even especially Allah didn't have to give Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam all the examples of his brothers in prophethood, but he did. To give Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and strengthen his resolve, not only to make him a part of that tradition, right? But this is what strengthened Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imagine how powerful these stories are, that they strengthened Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, strengthened his resolve to continue his mission, right? It was a very strong source for him, and he needed it because Allah knew that he needed it. That's why Allah gave it to him, right? But that's why we pick the gems from it and we continue going. If it wasn't for these stories, bro, like how many, just for a simple example, when you're telling your kids stories before they go to sleep, or you tell them stories, you see how attentive they listen, and then you give them lessons from it, right? Stories are very powerful, but they have to be given lessons with it,
Like who thinks about, like in the story of Yusuf, how the brothers made some kind of consensus among them, like on a lie, and that happens in society all the time.
That's what it is. That's what all politics is,
bro. But no one thinks about. No one's talking about the story of Yusuf in that way. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there, but I'm saying when I'm saying no one's talking about it, I'm saying it like in a wide, a published book or something insightful. There's always like all kinds of Islamic sciences books and ways to purify your heart.
Concocting a lie may be a part of it, but it's not like focused on heavily.
Yeah. No, but I'm just saying, breaking down moment by moment, like the story and how it relates to human beings, just to your life, for example,
because we make the claim that Allah is teaching us about ourselves every time we open the Quran, right? So in these stories, are we looking at it just to learn lessons, or are we reflecting also? And which is important, you have to learn lessons from it, but are we also picking out, like you said, concocting a lie and bringing it all together, and that's how society functions? Like if you think that there's societies, all societies, even our society, a big portion of it functions on a pack of lies and a big portion of deception.
For example, we all know in Western societies, all of them know that alcohol destroys society, but they all have agreed on this lie that they're going to allow it, that it brings pleasure, even though it brings the destruction that it brings to their society is far more greater than the pleasure that it brings.
Money is more important and pleasure is more important,
but they've all concocted, it's not just Like you can apply that.
Banded together that what's going to destroy us is going to be good for us monetarily and for our pleasure. So let's just keep what destroys us.
They collectively decide on lie, and
it's deception.
Just like the brothers of Yusuf, they collectively decided that they're going to lie about something that didn't happen, and despite his father repeatedly asking them, and his father knew there. Help me out with the name. Yaqub alayhi salam. He knew they were lying too. That's the thing. Like he knew they were lying.
He knew there was something going on for sure.
He knew they were lying.
He's like, yeah.
They're just like there, and then there's wisdom to extract from that. Well, why not just press them? Why not just like tie them up and to a pole and whip him or something? It's like, tell me where he is, Well, the wisdom in him knowing that it's part of Allah's plan, that these kids are lying,
Yeah.
Like, what station is he at to not tie them to a tree and whip them?
And just trust in Allah.
Who wouldn't whip their... I mean, if your kids hit one of your other kids, you would say, bring out any kind of device to coerce them to give up that information.
It'd be completely understandable.
No one would bat an eye.
You're right.
When I was thinking about this, though, you think about what drives a person to not do that, right? You know what I think about? Muru'ah. Manliness or chivalry. Because it is, everyone talks about manhood saying, oh, it's the guy who has the big muscles, it's the guy who has nice clothes, the big beard, who's tall in stature, wide chest, which is man, he's big, right? But when we see the examples of manhood among the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what do we see? We see, what do they say about it? He's forgiving, he's kind, he smiles, he's gentle with the people he needs to be, right? And so in this case, like it's being in control of your feelings and not overstepping the bounds, acting in justice, right? And being able to have adl, and then being just, and then also at the same time honoring what you've been given, like the rights. And so but all of that is tied in with being giving the appropriate response, and then trying to show kindness instead of strength, or anger, or mercy instead of anger, right? Only when you need to do something is when you do it, right? But to settle and to control your emotions, that's the stronger kind of strength, right? That's the one when you can inflict. I mean, a Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could ask the malaika to finish a nation immediately. Even your own children, you can do that out of anger. And to have that kind of, to wield that kind of power, and to not have to be able to exercise that is muru'ah, right? And why is it important? Because we know, like Hassan al-Basri, when he was asked, what is muru'ah? What is it? What is manhood? He said, it is deen, it is religion. It says the one without, manhood has no religion. So it's interlinked. And what does that mean? When we say manhood, it's a broader term. It means the personality of somebody, meaning how do they carry themselves? Do they do anything that dishonors themselves or other people around them? Do they intend to do harm? Do they show aggression when they could have avoid unintentional or unnecessary aggression? Things like that, like where there's a balance, right? So when you look at a story like this, in this case, like what would stop a person from doing that? And it's only somebody who has the fear of Allah, which is his religion, and that makes him a man. That makes him, having muru'ah. So yeah.
But think about it though. If he pressed them harder, what would they do? They would go deeper in their lie.
That's deep, Sam. Yes, sir. I didn't even think about that, man.
They would go deeper in their lie. And I think the reason why Yaqub alayhi salam didn't press them more is because they would keep on lying, and they would keep building on that lie, because there's no turning back from that kind of lie.
No, you have to keep lying about that.
And I think that's why he stopped.
Wow.
You ever have someone lie to your face and you, for the purpose of just keeping their dignity, you don't call them out on their BS?
Yeah. That happens, It happens to all of us.
Yeah. That's what I thought of different. Too. That's one of the thoughts that came when I was reading that.
It's different, SubhanAllah.
Yeah. That's crazy. SubhanAllah. I was just looking this up too. I was looking for this quote. الحلم عند الغضب والعفو عند القدرة. I mean, it is forbearance at a time of anger and forgiveness at a time of power.
Yeah.
And so, like, and that's what I look at, because you know why? In this example he's mentioning right now, right? That he could have pressed out of anger. He said, you know what? You're lying, right? I know you're lying, right? But he showed forbearance in that. Why? Because he's saving somebody from harming themselves. And he's in control of his emotions, right?
Takes farsightedness.
So this is why the Anbiya are Anbiya. Because they have this certain character, this nobility, this honor, this manhood that is unique above others. Because people just think, okay, Allah just chose, yeah, of course, but in choosing them, He gave them certain characteristics. That's why they were all shepherds. They had to have this training, right? They were capable of having this training, because no one can have a burden bigger than they can handle.
The capability also of having
this
training.
Yes, they're capable of it. You can't just force somebody who's not suitable for the position. He has to have ingrained a refined character. So in this example, like he mentioned, that's one of the wisdoms that he in his understanding of the human condition, that he didn't want to press on someone and make him sin more, because he knew that he would be responsible for making somebody sin more, when he could have just had forbearance and said, hey, it's okay, he's alive, he's good, he's here. You know what I mean? Like, and that takes a lot of strength.
It does.
It's mind blowing. I mean, these are just a few thoughts, but inshallah, like I want to make it part of the show. I want us to think more about these things, and perhaps share our own experiences, whatever it may be. From you, the listener, too. Jump in, throw your thoughts. As you read the Quran or whatever, share your thoughts and think about what you can contribute. This is a community almost, rather than a YouTube channel. I want to say that I want to hope that one day that we all are learning and benefiting from each other.
I mean,
yeah, I know we have some major giants that listen to us in the chat, and they're typing. I see you guys, so maybe when Sim gets a chance, we'll throw that live link in again, and they can join in. But we'd love to hear from you. I mean, I can say for me and Sim, we're dumb laymen's, but
of course,
mashallah, Shaykh here is qualified. But I know there's plenty of much more knowledgeable people in the audience than me and Sim. And I know some of you personally, and I know you guys have mashallah knowledge. So if you want to share insights and thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. So yeah, mashallah. I mean, and these are the kinds of stories. I think when you look back on it, when you see when the Quran calls for tadabbur, right? It's not always just trying to figure out why Allah revealed something or extrapolating the illah of some ruling. It's about making it relevant, taking that ibrah, that lesson, and making it relevant to your life. Because these stories, each and every one of them. And this is what we mentioned earlier too. We talked about this on in person. I forgot with who, but it is that the Quran itself is this dynamic book that appeals to everybody. Meaning, it's catered to your experiences. Like, you may read the same story, you and me and Sim may read the same story, but because of our experiences, that story, different parts of that story interact with us differently. And Allah knew. By His infinite wisdom, that's why the Quran is the Quran. Because what I can see from reading one story, Sim can see something entirely different or derive some different benefit from it. And Amr can take a different benefit from it. And that's one thing that is related to tadabbur.
Full of aha moments. For sure. Yes, sir. I think the experiences we have are extremely important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us experiences for the purpose of finding Him. If you put everything in your whole life experience, from what you remember, what you can recall up until present day, every single one of those is to find Allah. Every single one. There's no such thing as a coincidence. There's no such thing as happening by chance. Every single one of those is a vehicle to get closer to Allah. But I think you guys want to just move on a little bit, because I know there's a few things to cover here. Inshallah.
Looks like Shaykh is bored.
No, I'm not bored, and I'm just.
Well, there's a few things happening, brothers, that we need to move on to. The Chinese have demolished a mosque in a specific province that I will pull up in a second here. Do you remember off the top of your head? Mort?
I do not. Is it Xinjiang?
No, bro. Real mature, Mort.
What?
Real mature.
That's the name of a province.
That I know but it's not the Xinjiang province, okay?
I think he was thinking of the most obvious where it would happen, but yeah, I remember reading about that. I can't pronounce the name. I don't remember the name.
It was, hang on, Yunnan protest.
Yunnan?
Yeah, Yunnan.
I think it's the Red River is Yunnan. Oh,
No,
the Yellow
the
River.
Yellow River,
I don't know.
bro.
Anyways.
You're thinking about
What's
Thai red curry, bro.
No. There's a Yellow River in China, bro.
Anyways, let's I want to know about this. It's a little serious, so I want to know a little detail.
All right, so here we go. Protesters have clashed with a large number of police over the planned demolition of a mosque's dome in a largely Muslim town in Yunnan, China. Social media videos show crowds outside the 13th century Najia Ying Mosque in Nagu town on Saturday. Scuffles broke out between police and locals who were hemmed in by hundreds of armed officers. Yunnan, an ethnically diverse province in southern China, has a significant Muslim population. China is officially atheist and the government says it allows religious freedom, but observers say there has been an increased crackdown on organized religion in recent years, with Beijing seeking greater control. In Nagu, the Najiying Mosque had been a key landmark in recent years, had expanded with a new domed roof, as well as a number of minarets. However, a 2020 court judgment ruled the additions illegal, ordering them to be removed. Recent actions to carry out that order appear to have sparked demonstrations. Videos of Saturday's protests were verified by the BBC showed lines of police blocking entry to the mosque and group of men attempting to force their way in, with some throwing rocks at the police. Other clips show police later withdrawing as the crowd enters Najing Mosque. So basically,
and the Chinese Muslims, I mean, it's not just about the Uyghurs, but it's been since
these are ethnically the Hui, Hui. The Hui are one of 56 groups recognized by Beijing and are predominantly Sunni Muslim. Yunnan, in the country's southwest, is home to 700,000 of the 10 million Hui Muslims in China. Wow, there's 10 million Hui Muslims in China?
Yeah,
that's a lot of Muslims, bro.
It is.
MashaAllah. Who was the Sahabi who brought Islam to China? Not Sahabi, but there was like a...
It was one of the Umayyads, right? I think some of them, I don't know, I forgot.
But yeah, China has been on all levels of religiosity, especially pertaining to Muslims. I remember when in the 90s I used to hear about that. I think it was probably in the mid to late 90s, of masjids in China, like people just randomly throwing pig heads inside of the masjid while they were praying and all that kind of stuff. And then it started making more sense after that.
So Uthman bin Affan did. Uthman bin Affan sent missionaries to China. We call them da'is, not the Christian word of missionary.
Yeah, so I was right. Banu Umayyah. Yeah, I was right. Yeah. Got it. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
good for something.
Huh?
I got it right. Banu Umayyah. I'm good for something.
You are good for many things, mashallah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I know, Mort, you wanted to and I didn't get a chance to do too much reading on Turkey and stuff like that. Can you
I didn't really do a lot of reading, but
Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas was also involved.
Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas, yes, yeah. that's what
Wahab ibn Abu Kabcha. I don't know about
Kabcha, yeah.
You know about that Sahabi? Yeah. MashaAllah. So anyway,
Thank you for that. No, I was saying I would ask Mort or yourself just to talk a little bit about Turkey, because I'm kind of interested.
You putting me on the spot, bro.
I'm sorry,
I just know that Erdogan won, bro, and it's a good thing, alhamdulillah, that Islam has a smaller victory in by Gulu Gulu not winning. So that's a good thing.
Kiriklu didn't win, and it's a victory. Yes, Erdogan has a lot of problems in terms of his dealings with Israel and things like that. Yes, we know that. But ultimately, between those two, we know the clear distinction is Erdogan, especially Kirikulu was promising. He was being very bold in his ads now about expelling the Syrians out of Turkey. Like the ads were literally saying no more Syrians in the
straightforward.
Like on the bus, on the bus terminals or bus stops, you have like those ads that are kind of sitting there.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. So is it safe to say the religious Turks are very welcoming to the Syrians, and the if you want to say the secular-esque Turks are very, very non-welcoming? The religious are more welcoming than the secularists?
The religious
are more welcoming, because I know a lot of Syrians, a lot of them write that we don't feel welcome, we face a lot of discrimination, we face a lot of this and that.
Well,
who are they usually facing that from?
The secular Turks, the nationalist Turks, are concerned about Turkey alone.
Of course.
That was Mustafa Kemal's main thesis, that Turkey is concerned with itself. We don't want to be worried about what is happening with the Arabs or other parts of the Muslim world.
And his job was to dismantle this idea of ummah, right?
Yeah.
And we see this throughout history and even contemporarily. We have to take this idea of ummah away from these Muslims, because as long as they're ummah, then they're going to be thinking globally, right? And when they think globally, they're going to be including things that they're going to be striving for certain elements that go against our nationalistic worldview, right? And that's why I was asking that, that question is, curriculum would be carrying on this legacy of Ataturk to again dismantle this idea of ummah, right? And at least I think what you guys are saying, at least with Erdogan here, there's still that idea of ummah that can flourish, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think
there was another thing too, though. Just because you guys brought this up, I don't know. Are you guys aware of the situation of Muslims in Ethiopia?
No.
Yeah. So they are getting it bad in Ethiopia. You know what? Actually, I just want to play something because this was actually, it put me onto this. It was actually a sister that was living in Ethiopia, and she made a plea for Muslims to know what's going on, and she wants Muslims to be their voice. And I'm just gonna play this. I think we have this set up so I can just hit the play button.
Every Muslim in the world to pray for us and to stand with us. This message from Ethiopia, the land of Habasha, Najashi's land.
Can you pause that for a second? Can you just send me the link and I can show it to the listeners?
Oh, they can do that? Yeah. I mean, you can do that. Okay, hold on. Let me just...
just send it to me on WhatsApp.
Yeah, let me just... I don't know how to do this.
There should be a share button.
No, I gotta send it to my... Because I'm using my other phone, so I gotta send it to my...
But that's the thing that sucks, right, Sim? It's like...
Here.
The things that media outlets want to be seen, that's what people know about, right? It's so... a lot of stuff just passes us up, man. There's so many things happening.
You got it?
Every Muslim in the world.
1 second here.
Yeah.
All right.
This is actually what put me on to the play. I had no idea what was going on, but I know there are Afar and
to pray for us and to stand with us. This message from Ethiopia, the land of Habasha, Najashi's land. We need help. Our brother and sister are suffering. Our sister, because of their hijab, they stop from going to school. Now they start destroying our Masjid mosque. It's not one mosque. Many mosques being destroyed in the capital city of Addis Ababa. We don't know the reason. My beloved sister and brother, please be voice for us. When they destroyed the masjid, they didn't even let us collect the Holy Quran. They destroyed with it. We need help. It's not one mosque, it's many mosques. They keep doing now. So please, pray for us and be voice for us. We need your help from Ethiopia, Habasha, Najashi's land.
Oh, shalom.
Yeah. So they're destroying masajids because it's an ongoing political warfare between Muslim factions and Christian governments, and it's been an ongoing struggle for some of the ethnically Somali people that live in Ethiopia as well too. I believe the Oromo, and then there's also the ethnically Muslim people, the Afar, who are in Ethiopia. They've been going through this for decades, but it just doesn't get the media attention it deserves. But
she's right. I'm pulling up news articles here that show that exact same thing. Mass protests erupt over mosque demolitions in Addis Ababa. Who's doing this though?
It's I believe it's the government. There's like a crackdown on what religious institutions are and so forth and so on. There's some political motivation behind it. It's a long political mess.
The Muslim community has been demanding responses from the Oromia regional, state, and federal government offices for the past few weeks, but they did not receive a positive response. Addis Ababa Police Commission reported yesterday that there were 2 deaths following the protest around the Grand Anwar Mosque. Muslim activists and religious leaders have voiced deep dismay over what transpired during the protest. The government, another Muslim figure, Bedru Hussein, called the situation disheartening. The government needs to sit down and discuss with institutions representing the Muslim community instead of trying to silence them by using force, which he said on his Facebook account, which has 400,000 followers. So, I mean, aren't the Ethiopian government Muslims? Like,
no.
Oh, they're Christians?
Yeah.
It's like, I think it's 40-60 Christian Muslim, right?
Yeah, population-wise. But it's highly politicized. But there was a guy who was born Muslim, became Christian. He had born to one Muslim parent, one Christian parent. I think he's a Christian. So listen, I am no expert in the Horn politics in East Africa. I hear a bit here and there from my Somali brethren, but if anyone out there is listening and you are Ethiopian, even better, send us a comment, let us know where we can get some more information from, because to be honest, to me this is still I knew there was conflicts going on, but I don't know the exact details of every single thing, and I don't want to misspeak about something as sensitive as this. So if there's brothers or sisters out there that have information on Ethiopia, on what is actually going on there, do reach out to us. Let us know. And better yet, if you have someone that could talk about the issue, please refer them to Sim at the madmamalukes@gmail.com.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. Raising awareness.
Yeah, I honestly had no idea. I don't know much about Ethiopian or the Horn politics.
Yeah, sorry for bringing it up last minute. We should be prepared, but it was reminding me of
awareness,
it
bro.
when you mentioned China. I'm like, I just saw this video and it was heartbreaking.
That's
because
fine,
she was.
We're not a news outlet.
Yeah,
we're not wearing a shirt and tie here.
No, 95 here. We're just showing up.
We got jobs.
JOBs.
What else? The ongoing saga continues with certain individuals who are really upset about the Navigating Narratives document that came out. So notable personalities from the Chicagoland community spoke out against people. One of the individuals, his name is Mufti Yasir Nadim Wajidi. Am I pronouncing that right, Shaykh?
Yeah.
Wajdi.
Not the Waqidi guy, right? Not from Saudi Arabia. No. Who's that guy? That
doesn't matter, bro.
That guy's Salafi, right? Yeah.
So who's talking smack about him, bro?
That was Abu Musa Waqidi, right?
I don't know, dude.
Anyway.
By the way, this is the same guy that made a video about us too. Stop getting emotional. Listen, this is the same person, individual, that made us a video about us because we had mentioned that there were some writings affiliated with Ashraf Ali Thanwi, Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi, and they were upset that we kind of highlighted some of those things, and so I think they made like a 4-hour video calling us morons and idiots and jahil. But here he is back again, and I'll say quite frankly, making a fool of himself. He's taking Imam Zaid Shakir's speech out of context. I think you have that ready.
So basically, the commentary he puts Let's just go ahead and play it. And then...
Like, for example, you have a transgender Muslim that comes to the masjid. He's clearly a man, but he's wearing a hijab, and he wants to pray on the sister's side. Is that okay?
I think people who place themselves consciously and knowingly in a third category have to accept what they allege that they allege they accept anyway. A lot of advocates of alternative gender identities and alternative sexualities condemn the gender binary. But when it comes to practice, they want to firmly situate themselves in the context of the gender binary. So the trans woman wants to compete with the girls and not with other trans athletes in a third category. The trans man, I hope I'm getting that right, wants to sit with the sisters in the masjid and not in a third space. So, okay, listen, those are the women over there. These are the men. You sit there. We'll make a third space for trans Muslims. No, I must sit with the women. I thought you rejected the gender binary.
So that's the solution then? They should have their own space?
I say if you're going to try to be accommodating, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So just to dumb it down, what he's saying is that these people claim to be gender fluid, right? Yeah. And they claim to be all over the place. But when it comes to the masjid issue, they want to demand a place based on assigned gender.
Yeah.
So he's pointing out the obvious hypocrisy in their thinking. And then he goes on to finalize and say, if somebody wants to be accommodating to them, then there should be a third space, so to speak, because they can't fall into the category of being man or woman by their own account because they're not sure what they are. And so what happens is that they need to be able to accommodate them if they want to do that, right? And so the reality here is that Imam's Zaid Shakir is not suggesting that we open the masjid or masajid to people who are just trying to, cross-dress and come in as the opposite gender. He's not suggesting that at all. What he's saying is that the people who are making the argument need to refine their argument and actually embody the principles they're claiming to hold. And secondly, if there is an organization that wants to be allied with these people and empathize with what they're going through and also acknowledge the argument, then if they're going to allow these people to come to the masjid, then they should, based on their principles of not being able to be assigned a gender, should have an other category and open up a third prayer space within there in order to accommodate them. So in no way, shape, or form is the Imam saying that he agrees with bringing transgendered people into the masjid. He's simply responding to an argument
to show their hypocrisy.
And this would be called Islam, right? I mean, in Islam, scholars have oftentimes used the argument of an opponent to then deconstruct it and using that logic, that mantiq against them. And that's simply what the Imam is doing. Now, our friend, Mr. Wajdi here, thinks that by hearing this, that the Imam is advocating for opening third, extra spaces for, transformers. So
he says trans Muslims should have their own space in masjids. At Imam's, he tags Imam Zaid Shakir, who supported the coalition document
Muslim that comes to the
today.
Masjid. He's clearly a man, but he's wearing a hijab. And
who supported the coalition document today and who was considered by Yasir as a leader of American Islam. This is what happens when you acknowledge the constitutional rights of the alphabets.
But he's speaking on somebody else's behalf too. It's not just him, right? I mean, there's other people that are like this. That seems like he's kind of like.
Wait,
he doesn't seem to torch.
Who's speaking on behalf?
This
Dr. Yasir?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's and Daniel Hakikuchu's
right hand man. It seems like.
No, I think he's posing a question. He's not saying that he has that view. He's just proposing a question. Oh, you're talking about Wajdi? Oh, that's I think in the interview. No, I mean, look, I think YG is just settling a beef with him. I mean, he's just clearly making a fool. He thought he had a point, and he doesn't have a point, and now he's doubling down.
Because they were also arguing about the document, too, before this, right? Just a few days ago.
Yeah, I mean, look, so we've talked about the document, right? Yeah. We've been through it. I think we all here unanimously agree that the document clearly lays out that everybody who signed that document is not supporting the LGBTQ agenda. They're very clear about what Islam's stance on that is. We know that, right? And they're firmly against it. The only thing we had a criticism of is maybe some of the language that could be too generalized, but nonetheless, that's in terms of the law, not actually in terms of Islamic jurisprudence. We know from the jurisprudential perspective, they all agree it's haram, that lifestyle is not allowed. He seems to have taken a different approach to this, saying that they are alleging that the imams are how do I say, accounting for the possibility that that you can be possibly whatever transformer or whatever LGTV whatever, and be part of them, right? And that's not the case. So that's how it originally started. Then, to double down on that, he puts this out saying, "Oh, look, Imam Zaid wants to open a third space for the whole, the Transformers and the LGTV people, right?" Yeah. And so it's clearly not what's happening. Instead of actually bringing evidence, he just makes a fool of himself. And where we can see very clearly here that even Imam Zaid is making jest of the whole idea of trans man, trans woman. He's not even sure what to call them, right? And he's saying if one would want to do that, then you definitely keep them away from the male and the female section, is what he's essentially saying.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think, Sim?
I mean, it's quite obvious. He's basically saying like that. Obviously, you're not going to get a third space. It's just a ridiculous argument because in essence, they're rejecting the binary form.
Assignment,
they're saying there's no male and female, but they're wanting to be part of the females.
Yeah.
So it makes no sense.
Hypocrisy, complete hypocrisy.
So he's showing the ridiculousness of their argument.
Yeah.
They're not going to get a third space. But let's just say in the littler sense, you have we had the brothers from Talif on. Remember, they had talked about a trans man, I think, a trans woman who had come to the brothers' area because she was he's a biological male, despite his dressing as a woman, and he was praying right next to this biological male who's identifying as a woman. But what's the ruling on that? Like, should they be maybe towards the last few safs of the mosque?
But
maybe?
that'd be discriminating.
No, but to be,
I
think it's very simple though, right? He's a man. At the end, however he looks or how he thinks that he's a man.
Yeah.
So by that perspective, like he can pray in the saf if he's a man, right? And it just is what it is, right? Yeah. Biologically, he's a man. He has something between his legs, and he's got testosterone, and his genetics say he's a man, right? So if he wants to, dress more feminine in that case by wearing whatever hijab, I don't know, but he's a man, right? And so for me, while I would think it would be, I'm not giving the Islamic ruling here, but I'm saying for me, I think it would be very awkward, definitely, if someone didn't even announce that, hey, we're allowing these kinds of people to be here but making it very clear that their biological sex is what side they're going to be on. Yeah. I think I would be okay with that, meaning that as long as they're not pushing a message out there, they're not
But their clothing is pushing the message. So Masjid administration, obviously, number one, has to be well versed. You should have the message should be so organized that a whole bunch of people shouldn't come and argue with that. The same way the Bedouin that was urinating in the masjid, you let him finish. Let this dude who thinks he's a woman finish his salah, and then the first people who see it, they should tell the masjid administration, the imam. The imam should be well versed and go talk to this person and say, look, we know you're trying to represent by your clothing, and you're almost in a way protesting by showing that you can be a woman and pray with the men, but in reality those thoughts are for yourself. You're welcome to come to the masjid, just don't dress in this attire, showing who all of this stuff. Because look, regardless.
So wait, let's role play. Let's just for a second. Yeah, listen. Let's just say that this happened to you. You're leading in the masjid, and this happens, and I come to you and say, Shaykh Amir, there's a guy here who's dressed as a woman. And you go speak to him, right? And he's gonna tell you, I want to pray. I'm Muslim. I'm suppressing my desires of acting on it, but I'm a Muslim. I feel I want to dress this way. I want to pray here. Yeah. What would you tell them?
I said, no, it's good you can suppress your desires, and it'll be a lot easier to suppress your desire to dress as a woman. If you're suppressing the sexuality, and acting upon it, it'd be also not difficult for you to just dress regularly as a man and come pray. No one has to know who you are and that you're feeling like a female. Nobody has to know that.
What if they come back and say,
Allah.
I don't want to change the way I dress?
Then I would say that, one of the conditions of the men in the musalla is that we dress as men and we follow Islamic attire. Some of that may be subjective, but if you're blatantly wearing a jilbab and a hijab to show everybody and demonstrate that you are a female when you're not, we're going to ask you to change your attire, please. Or
So you're saying if they refuse to change their attire, you would ban them from the masjid?
I would tell them to come back and dress as a male.
I'm saying if they refuse to, if they keep coming back as in a jilbab and hijab, would you ban them from the masjid?
Of course, they're disrupting the sanctity of the masjid, of course.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the ruling on this stuff like this, but because people will come back and tell you,
and that's a masjid. Look,
especially the ta'leef guy, when they had this conversation, they're going to say, well, do you want to prevent someone from, the whole idea of aiding the shaitan against your brother, right? And I understand your perception too that,
but that's a
you don't want to welcome
a little different. Yeah, but Ta'leef's a little different. They're in the business of bringing people, no matter what type of situation they're in. Obviously, a masjid has that also, but the masjid environment is different than Ta'leef. Ta'leef environment is considered to be a safe space, which is why they would say, for instance, listen, you're not going to join the women, you're not going to join the men. If you want to pray, you can pray. We'll give you this section right here, right? And that's what they did. And again, I don't think that flies in a masjid, though, because a masjid is much different than a space which is not considered a masjid where people are praying in.
So to sum it up, you think masajid should be very absolutely clear on this?
Of course, they have to be.
That they should ban people. They have to be.
This is just the beginning of the beginning.
And just send them over to ta'leef, right, if they want to pray.
I don't want to be like the hot potato and give ta'leef.
Yeah,
but it's more like, every masjid should have their strong point of view. The main dilemma here is, number one, that we have a certain sanctity of the masjid, and just because somebody's not verbally protesting, they can protest with their clothing. If someone had on their shirt "F-U," like, I'm not saying anything, it's on my shirt, well, we're not going to let you come to the masjid like that.
Somebody wouldn't be able to have a half-naked woman in a shirt praying in the masjid.
Of course.
Right. So Omar Shaykh says that the challenge that you'd have legal issues if there's a person was trying to just provoke, it decides to pursue legal route. So one thing so far in America, which is in most places, is that there are legal exemptions for places of worship.
Yeah.
So a woman can't say, I demand to come in here without hijab on, right? There are exemptions made for
even though masjids allow it, masjids allow it, like, just to be
but
fair.
I'm saying they could very clearly say you can't enter. Yeah, I mean, and there are exemptions, right? I mean, because this is not. It's a religious establishment, and whatever happens in the confines of that religious establishment is what they have the right to determine that. So as of right now, we have the ability to limit who and what could enter the masjid potentially.
Yeah. But if we come back to Mufti Wajidi, can we just be fair? Like, English is not his first language, right? And both of the confusions that he had with the document and this, it can be a language, it can be a linguistic thing. Right?
I mean, if you want to cut that kind of slack, then fine. But I'm just
saying, it seems.
I don't think that it's a religious. I don't think it's a barrier. I think that he's looking for something, and I think he doubled down. And
do you think it's a linguistic thing, Sim? The way he confused both of the things that just happen to be with language, and then he's reading into it based on his idea of bringing people down.
I hope it is. I mean,
he's good up.
Yeah, I didn't want to come into his camera. That's why.
No, you're not.
Okay, cool.
Basically. It could possibly be a language issue, but the thing is, like, there's a way, like, we're critical of people too, but I think, like, especially when I write any kind of critical, whether it's a superstar scholar or a regular person, there's a general, like, a decorum. Like, I make dua for him, for example, and I began, I say, hey, I just say something. Yeah. I'm sorry. More, you want to say something?
No, mashallah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Mashallah.
Well, basically, I try to be, have some kind of decorum. Like, hey, look, I respect your humanity. I respect you. Like, if you're coming at me like an idiot, then I'll come at you like an idiot too.
Yeah.
But if someone is just like asking a question,
yeah.
And sometimes even if there's like a tone of rudeness in it, I'll try to give them a benefit of doubt,
Yeah, just kind of smooth it over so you have to get the point over, right?
And I'll just say, like, hey, look, let me try to address you in the best way possible. And if you're still being an idiot, then I'll just, like, I won't respond anymore.
Yeah.
you know.
I think
smart.
it's the best policy.
That's smart.
Because, to be honest, insulting somebody back and forth, you're not going to achieve anything. You're just going to lower your manhood, right? By just going to that level. But I would say this much, though. I think to Sim's point, like even when he writes, I think if you're going to be in a position to write a rebuttal to something, I think maybe you can make excuses for me and Sim were laymen, right? We don't call ourselves scholars. We're not tulab al-ilm. But for someone who is that, right, you have to be extra careful. Do your due diligence when you're putting out, maybe even have someone, especially if you're making accusations, have someone proofread it. Maybe English is a barrier. Maybe it is a second language and you don't understand it. Then have someone proofread or have someone review it and say, hey, did he say that? Right? I mean, I don't know if he did or not, but I'm saying those are things you should be doing, especially when you're making such an accusation against people who put work into the community. Yeah. Quite frankly, they do good for the ummah, right? And if you're going to come out and make these heavy accusations, you better be 100% sure that what you're saying is correct.
Yeah.
Look, there's this idea among a lot of the brothers of a certain camp that they knew it all along.
Yeah. That
they knew about the LGBT problem all along. And that's just not true.
It's not?
It's not true. We know one of the prominent individuals from that camp made statements that were, mild towards the whole LGBT community. It was mild. Now they're acting as if they know it all. Like
meaning that they had this position the whole time.
They had this position that the scholars were, sometimes were in cahoots. The scholars were worried about Islamophobia and discrimination still. We were just coming off the heels of 9/11. People were just getting out of that fear zone for the past decade or so. And then there's ISIS that people were worried about in the mid 2010s. Was it 2015, 2016? What year did ISIS come out?
Like 2015,
2016,
right?
I thought.
15, 16.
Yeah,
people worried about that phenomenon that was happening.
Because Syria happened 2015, right? Because Yemen was in 2013. No, 2011, I think. 2012 was.
It was a little bit after.
No,
Egypt.
because Obama was in power, right? So it had to be before 2012. So that
but it picked up momentum at
I'm saying there were other groups. I think he's right. By 2014, 2015-ish, Daesh was full blown because it happened in Iraq around that time. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So there was that happening. And especially the whole LGBT thing. Whenever a new problem happens, there's a maturity that also takes place in the discussion of that problem. So thoughts and debate happen back and forth. Strategies or initiatives or the way you communicate to this group of individuals was very controversial. It's being fleshed out. And I don't see that even mistakes that were made in the past as something that incriminates them as agents of liberalism or as agents of the West or some kind of cabal of scholars who are seeking to change Islam from within so that it can be part of some kind of modernist agenda.
They're trying to have a decorum and be sensitive at the same time. Yeah.
I'll be honest. Initially, when this whole stuff was happening, I would say maybe 2-3 years ago, I was wondering whether there was some kind of conspiracy, but I was wondering whether the scholars just want to be accepted with Islam, want Islam to be accepted in Western society, and I was like, maybe they're just willing to overlook all these problems just so that Muslims get accepted, and I just didn't see that as an acceptable reason for us to. But I think they understand now. I think many scholars have heard from practicing Muslims, people who have challenged them on issues, and they're fixing their communication.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people thought what you thought, that they were just kind of trying to make Islam more palatable, not draw attention to the Muslims. They had just recently got over a bunch of different things. And then the Pulse nightclub thing happened as well too.
Then Trump came to power. And everyone thought that the Sentinels were going to come and take away the Muslims, like in the X-Men.
Yeah, as funny as that is, but there were people out there who were saying that, if Trump gets in, that's it, Muslims are going to be rounded up and we're going to prison camps, right? Look, there are people around these imams that heavily push a political agenda. And they, unfortunately, this is just who the imams get their political knowledge and understanding from as far as the landscape. And if they're pushing this fear factor all the time that Muslims are going to be rounded up, Muslims are going to be put away, taken away, they're going to do all this stuff, right? They're going to respond to that, right? Because scholars respond. I can't expect a scholar to be politically savvy and study the deen, go on tours, give lectures, and then to also be a political pundit, right?
They ride social waves.
Yeah,
and a lot of it. Look, I don't think it's right. I wish that the scholars could be independent. They could be that character of the righteous who rides through the storm, unaffected by all the winds and dust and everything. I wish but they're human beings.
Yeah, it's never happened that way.
They're going to get caught up in the wind. They're going to get caught up by, some of the feminist rhetoric and some of the rhetoric coming from the left. And I think some of it's just them kind of getting caught up in it, and or even being worried about their jobs, because some of them have positions at universities or other academia.
Yeah, and it's not to the degree that they're like, oh yeah, this is feminism. Like people think when you say that there's a scholar that's saying, okay, this is feminism, I have to absorb this part of it and make sure that I understand it well and apply it to my community. It's more like my community is facing all these different things. I have to make sure that I help them hold on to their Islam and be able to teach them at the same time and build trust in Islam while them being polluted with all these different ideas. So they have to actually lower the vernacular. They have to come down to the level of the people to make sure that he can understand they can understand each other.
I appreciate you guys giving the husn al-dhan for the scholars. To be honest, I think quite frankly it was just inexperience. They didn't know how to deal with this stuff, and they just rode the waves.
That was a big portion of people, of course,
that were around them, that told them a certain narrative, and they just responded because those were their confidants, people who, and because for a long time these same people got them onto the big stages. They got them, the ability to present Islam to a larger audience, specifically a non-Muslim audience, right? Interfaith and White House and CNN interviews and whatever. These are the same people who had those connections, and they were feeding knowledge to them about, okay, this is what's going on, this is how it is, this is how it should be, this is the problem. And I'm not making an excuse for it. I do think as a scholar you are in a unique position where if you are going to don that mantle, you should do so being aware of all these issues, right? It's impossible to be a scholar, especially, here's the thing. In previous times you had a qadi, you had an Amir, you had someone who was well versed in all of these issues, being able to make a final verdict and a final say for the people. That has been replaced by community leaders / imams. So if you're going to be in that position, you have to be well versed in it. If you can't be, for whatever reason, step down from it. Because I think that's the main. If there's one thing I want to convey to these scholars, I don't want to go dwell in the past and nitpick everything you've done, but understand the gravity of your position.
Yeah, but so in basic. So check this out. People don't know what they don't know, right? Sometimes, based on what they understand, they think that they can hold a decent conversation and a proper understanding, right? And no one in the community is well versed enough to tell them in many times that they're wrong, because they're going to be looked at as a black sheep that's trying to hate on this imam type thing, right? So there's a lot of imams and a lot of scholars, they don't know what they don't know as far as contemporary issues. Yeah, of course they do. A lot of them think they understand the situation.
No, I don't think it's a good excuse, and I'll tell you why. Because
how are they gonna step down if they don't know what they don't know?
No, because they would never apply that same logic to the Islamic study they study. They would never say, "Oh, I didn't do the research, so I just don't know. I've been told, so I just believe it." That's not how it works.
No, they don't have anybody to tell them the research you did was not enough. You don't
need to have people tell you. If you're an imam, you're a scholar. Your job is to study material. That's your job. That's literally your job. That's literally what you go to school for decades.
It's not, I don't think it's that black and white.
No,
it's stylistically very different.
I don't think
it's stylistically very different.
I think there's a lot of socio-political navigation that you don't learn in textbooks and stuff. There's a lot of legal stuff you learn, but as far as navigating politics and the weird positions that you kind of
that's what I mean by you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know that.
I 100% disagree. I'm not saying everyone should have that, but if you're going to put yourself in a position of being a community leader and imam, you should have that. And if you can't navigate that and you don't know how to do it, step down. Let somebody who is able to do that do it.
Okay, let me ask you.
So if you want to be a scholar, if you want to be a scholar, just giving halaqat and making a series in the Prophet's life, by all means, just do that. Don't comment on things that you can't properly research. That's all we ask of you. Because if you don't know, this is the most basic fundamental thing of any student of knowledge. Don't speak on matters where you you don't really know the in-depthness of it. It's would they want someone who's in the community who just picked up sat in one halaqah, start talking about a hadith? They would never accept that. And if they hold that standard for, that kind of knowledge, these issues are things which literally break and make a Muslim community. It's not a light matter. You're talking about things that will change the landscape of a community.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that don't be a scholar. I'm saying don't be someone who's speaking on behalf of the community and addressing the issue if you don't know it. There are many scholars who say, listen, bro, I don't know about Bitcoin. I'm not going to say anything about it. Right? It's not just this is not just the issue of these particular what they call, what do they call them? The woke imams. No, there are scholars out there who are woke, or base, whatever, and they're commenting on things like Bitcoin and have no idea what they're talking about. No idea. Stay in your lane. Everybody, if you don't know it, don't speak about it. If you haven't done the research, don't say about it.
Yeah.
And look, if I came to you and said, yeah, Shaykh, give me the fatwa on Ethereum and staking my Ethereum coin, you're gonna come in common sense. You're not just gonna go to Sim and say, hey, Sim, give me the information about Ethereum and then make a fatwa on it. No, you're gonna do the research because your fatwa to me is extremely it's a matter of sin or in haram.
Of course.
Right. So I'm saying in this particular case, this is a whole lifestyle, bro.
Yeah. So I agree with you partially, but what I'm saying is, and I agree with you. Actually, I agree with you more than like 50%. But I'll tell you this.
Thank you, gracious.
No, but I'll tell you, the disconnect is this. What happens with many scholars is they've done the research Islamically and legally on many issues. Many of them believe, and they need somebody to tell them, that whatever you learned theoretically, and just because you understand the usul and even the fiqh of it, you can't just apply every new thing that comes. You have to know the new thing very well too. So they'll do a little bit of research on the new stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, it makes sense. It lines up what we learned, what happened in the past. A lot of this stuff is not new. It's happened in the past too. Oh yeah, and this is what it is. But the socio-political stuff that Sim said is a huge part of that many of them, that's why I said they don't know what they don't know. They need somebody to give them guidance. Because if you ask them, you do research? They're like, yeah, I did research in it. But who's to tell them that they didn't do research efficiently? They have to have a good group of people around them and tell them, hey, this is not thorough research. Let us help you research, or we'll give you this to research it. Because some of them, they're researching something that's not even the right thing to research, and they think that they did their research. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So can I ask you a question? If someone was asking you to look into something, would you only listen to a side that's pro or against something, or would you hear arguments from both sides?
Oh, both sides, of course.
Right, and that's my point. I don't think they did. If you're taking it only from your inner circle, because look, scholars, if it was that easy, everybody could be a scholar. Just listen to your inner circle and give your fatwa. Right? That's why the job of issuing fatwa is so hard.
No, I agree with you. That
right?
part,
So I'm saying if you're going to be in that position, I'm not saying don't be a scholar. You are a scholar and you're right. Ala rasi, we respect you. But everybody has a field of specialty.
Yes.
And like this fiqh of al-waqi', like what's happening now, that means not only the political, sociological impacts, but what people are thinking, what's trending, what's happening with the youth, what's happening with the elder. They need to know the entire breakdown.
And that I agree with. That part I agree with 100%.
Before you're coming, and let's say in your example, you're saying, you know what, there may have been some precedents in the previous years or whatever, so they're taking that and applying some of the principles, saying it probably applies here, this is what we think about it. At least then say, listen, this is not in any way attempt to answer the question completely. It may be that this in the past applies to this now today, and so based on that I'm giving this. If the things are changing or it's not the same, then I don't have an answer for you, right? At least be very forefront about that, so people understand in what context you're giving this answer.
No, that I agree with.
Or at least say that, hey, I've spoken to people who belong to this group and around this circle, and they've advised me this is what they've told me. If that is true, then so and so, blah 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 blah. Make that known, so at least people know where you got this information.
No, that's a sign of humility too. That's great.
Yeah.
That's good to say.
Well, I'll just close it off with this: being a leader is much more harder than passing a fatwa. Some of these scholars who've taken leadership positions where they represented the Muslim community acted as a buffer between certain groups of this non-Muslim society that we live in. You know, we're in IT. In IT, we call it like there's like a buffer zone between your company network and the external internet. It's called a DMZ. You know, so they have like these servers that kind of are the entryway sitting in the DMZ who kind of block all the attacks that are happening from the internet.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes this, being a scholar, you have to act like that server that's sitting in the DMZ that's blocking all the attacks from the internet. That's only the one entryway to your community, and you have to put yourself in there in positions that are really difficult, and you don't know how to navigate them, and you're going to make mistakes. It's just part of the game, and you're going to get heat for it. And chances are that I like to believe that they know their mistakes much more better than we or anyone else calls them out for them. It haunts them, and it takes a lot of maturity to realize that, because
you're right.
The reward of celebrity is not worth the actual being a celebrity. It's just too much of a headache.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's one.
They certainly have enough money to retire right now, but they don't.
There's one particular Shaykh. I don't want to mention who it was, but you know, people have said some things about him earlier when you know he was saying some things and he was offended by it and he was kind of hurt. He reached out to some people, and it ends up being later on. You know, those people they kind of went back in the shadow. They didn't hark on the issue too much because he was feeling ill about it. But what happened was he eventually, years later, ends up recanting his position and saying, you know what, I'm moving away from the left. You know, they what they did to other people, they did it to me too. And he realizes, right? And my thing is, the people who gave him advice don't care about him acknowledging the advice. They're just happy that he woke up to it, right? And I think that's what needs to happen. A scholar that cannot change, like if you can change your position on what scholar used to glorify and write books about and defend the Aqidah of for decades, right? And you can't change a position when something becomes crystal clear about, about what this agenda is and who's pushing it. You have to begin to wonder, what is the reason why you can't come out publicly and say these things, right? And I'm not, again, I don't claim to know what it's like to be a scholar. I don't know what kind of positions they're in, the political pull they have, the societal pull they have. Allahu alam. I'm sure it's very difficult. It is difficult. Okay, I'm sure it is a difficult place to be in. But again, with that kind of power and influence comes huge and immense responsibility. Yeah. Kullukum ra'in. All of you guys are shepherds for whatever you're responsible for.
Yes, sir.
So that's that's the emphasis I want to bring home. If any scholars listening, I don't want to attack them. I don't want to throw doubt on them and their character or their intentions. I assume, giving them the 70 excuses, they mean well, they intend well. But please, for the sake of the ummah, be very careful. If you don't know a matter that is that is pertaining to the community, please be absolutely clear before you actually say something, because this has huge implications. And I think we're seeing this now, right? The snowball effect of what happened. Maybe it wasn't intentional, but we see it, and this is only the beginning.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
we thought it was the beginning back then, but now the heat is on, and now this is actually the real beginning, I think.
Yeah, I mean, make no mistake, whether you're a celebrity scholar or you're a small time or you're any kind of person of influence, if you do something wrong or if you're incorrect about something, we will still point it out. That's what we do. We maintain our independent status. We've always prided ourselves on that. That doesn't mean that we act like jerks towards each other or try to purposely misconstrue what someone's trying to say to build an argument. That's one thing I want to say as well. When you build an argument about someone, and trying to create some kind of narrative, the examples or things that you use to build your argument says a lot about you. When you're trying to misinterpret what people are saying and trying to not giving them the benefit of doubt or just intentionally misreading what they're trying to say, it shows something about your character, and it's something sinister about your character. It's not something very light, and that's something that you have to pay attention to whenever you watch some of these videos about, certain people are agents of the left or of academia trying to distort Islam in some way. Think about it this way: just turn off the commentary and just look at it. Look at some of the evidences yourself and try to understand it. Maybe you have someone who's a better analyst or someone who can dissect some of these issues in a much more deeper way. Ask them to help you out. Anyway, there was did you guys see that one leftist document? The leftist LGTB supporting Muslims also created a document that counters the narratives document.
Oh no, I did not see the document. Can you talk about it?
I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Are you sure it wasn't by Islamica? It sounds like something Islamica would do. Islamica would have a great take on this, to be honest with you.
It might have been the Progressive Muslims organization. The guys that want to pray in the same row as women and all that stuff, and they want to have these imams that marry.
I did see that one. I think that at the last signature, they actually had like hundreds of signatures. And the last one was Aminu Adud. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah,
I read that one.
Yeah.
That was actually kind of funny, bro.
Yeah,
Can you pull it up?
I'm trying to.
I read that.
So in the meantime, do you want to just quickly talk about what your brother-in-law was doing?
Yes. So if you go to frrfusa.org, they are basically working for religious freedoms in public school regarding to LGBTQ material that the students in Montgomery County are being coerced into by the schools to be a part of. You're not able to even religiously opt out of this initiative by Montgomery County School District. And I saw my brother-in-law there, like a gangster, mashallah, with his crew. Brother Kareem, shout out to him also, who I think is spearheading a lot of this. They have attorneys with them. They're working on a few cases right now, but they were actually raising awareness of these books that are in the curriculum that are basically not even, they used to sneak in, I think is very, very blatant now, with using Muslim names in these books of girls and boys and Muslim culture in order to teach them about, the LGTV, as you guys say now, and the agenda, but also there is a petition, and they're asking, please, if you guys can sign the petition. What's this about? Or if you go to the Take Action tab, it will tell you about all the things you need to download in order, or just the petition itself. But it has all the books that they're in great detail. Let me just conclude by saying this, and I'll just go through a few things on the website. I shared the website with you if you want to read some of it. The first page I shared with you. But there was, in Montgomery County is a very influential county. A lot of politicians. Whatever generally happens in Montgomery County, rest of that area in Washington, D.C. and Virginia, they follow suit. It's a very influential, very affluent county. And one of the teachers in surrounding counties, if I'm not mistaken, takes the students to a pro-LGBTQ rally field trip without informing the parents, without any registration or field trip registration that you have to do.
Wow.
No consent of the parents, and takes them.
So
and then
pretty much kidnap the child.
And the parents found out about it the day of like, because I think some of them missed like their game or something for this thing, that they were a part of some sports. Why'd you miss? Oh, because the teacher took us and we got back at this time. And wait, we didn't even know there were no permission slips or anything about this. And took them to an LGBTQ rally and throwing their fists up in the air. And they came back to school and everything was hunky-dory. Everything was fine. I mean, this is the level of coercion that's taking place.
Yeah, just to give an idea, I'm looking at this thing, right? They have certain books that they want to actually have removed.
Yeah.
And one of them is called Pride Puppy.
Yeah.
A young child and a family are having a wonderful time celebrating Gay Pride Day, meeting up with grandma, making new friends, and eating ice cream. But then something terrible happens. Their dog gets lost in the parade. Like, it's all gay family stuff. And then The other one is Uncle Bobby's Wedding. Uncle Bobby's Wedding is about a fun-loving girl named Chloe and her Uncle Bobby, whom she adores. But then she finds out Uncle Bobby is getting married and meets Bobby's intended Jamie and worries that Uncle Bobby won't have time to spend with her anymore. So normalizing, Bobby and Jamie. Love Violet. Day brings a shy child named Violet the chance to connect with her crush, Mira, in Sullivan's wild, uplifting, wintry tale. A race through the snow, choreographically captured with dance-like grace in Chua sample light-filled watercolors. Born Ready, kindergarten to 5th grade, by the way. This exuberant companion to Jodie Patterson's adult memoir. The Bold World. Patterson shares her son Penelope's frustrations and triumphs on his journey to share himself with the world. Penelope's experiences show children that it always makes you stronger when you are true to yourself. I mean, another group like My Rainbow.
Yeah.
My Rainbow tells the story of a dedicated mom who puts love into action as she creates the perfect rainbow-colored wig for her transgender daughter, based on the real-life experience of a mother-daughter advocate duo Trinity and Deshana Neal. Warm morning sunlight and love fill the Neal home. I mean, just totally useless stories that are made to highlight the fact that there are same-sex parents, same-sex marriages, transformer agenda, LGTV, all the stuff. And this is stuff that kindergartners are listening. They have even material for 6th graders. By the way, this has gotten even crazier. In the UK, a 10-year-old, a politician had to bring this up in the House of Commons. A 10-year-old, who was that politician's 10-year-old, was given a homework assignment by this transformer agenda. And you know what the question was? The homework was? Go home and ask your father about his private part and his erection. Disgusting. Can you imagine that?
Despicable human beings, bro.
What kind of degenerative behavior is this?
It's not degenerative. Look, the beautiful thing about Islam is, and it always was, it always will be, there's a graceful way of talking about sex. Very graceful way. And Rasulullah was a great example. Allah is an amazing, obviously, example of that in the Quran, right? But when you get to the level of perversions with your family, they're incorporating, like that's what I said at the beginning. They want people in their families to be completely pervert with each other also, right? And it becomes very, very problematic because this desensitization progress, it's colorful books and all that, but the deception of shaitan is very, very funny. And they're falling straight into it, right? It's a very demonic, very satanic way of being, and it's just being normalized by way of kids' books and colorful books and focusing on children. It's such an evil thing to do.
Yeah. So if anybody's available in Montgomery, in that area, if you guys are listening out there in that region, I believe June 6th is the day they are gonna have a meeting, I think, or something.
There's a protest on that day, but if you can go to www.frrfusa.org and sign the petition, that's what they're looking for. You can download articles, you can get videos, and do your due diligence, inshallah, and just let us know what happens.
Yeah, frrfusa.org stands for Family Rights for Religious Freedom. That's what the acronym is. But yeah.
So here we go. ReclaimingIslam.org. Reclaiming Islam, affirming our right to interpretation. This is a statement that affirms the original principles of Islam as stated in the Quran itself.
Oh, really?
In the name of God, the beneficial, the merciful, the benevolent.
Yeah.
So, for those who don't know what we're talking about, this is the response to the differences in narrative website that the scholars put out. Whoever made this website doesn't know how to website design because there's a whole lot of gray here.
There's a gray area.
Why is it so tiny? What is that?
It's a gray area.
Is that a footnote? What is that?
No, I had to zoom out to get past the gray area. So basically, we as Muslims who represent approximately 2 billion believers and allies, we believe that all human beings have been created equal in the eyes of God. We affirm the oneness of all creation. We understand the harming of one human being emotionally, physically, and or systematically harms all of humanity. We acknowledge that humans have been placed on earth as earth stewards, so entrusted with the task to protect all creation from harm. So they go on to say, we reject the idea that there is a singular interpretation where Islam outlaws LGBTQIA plus people or considers queerness or trans identity sinful. We stand by our LGBT community members and stress that labels of sinfulness put their health, basic rights, and lives in danger. To quote the Quran, don't let the hatred of a people cause you to be unjust. Instead, we claim our God-given right to read the Quran for ourselves, to use our God-given intuition and reason to decide what is right and wrong without the pressures of self-proclaimed religious leaders and clergy members. So here's what's happening. Basically, the far left among Muslims is criticizing the letter that was put out against the LGBT community.
Shakir.
And the far right, the certain Muslims who don't see too happy about that the letter didn't go far enough, right?
So by the way, the same progressive group, it's not just about this stuff. They want the right for people to get married. They want the right to perform Islamic marriages for transformers and what do you call the LGTB people. They also want to stipulate that abortion is totally fine. That they want the pro-choice, so you can just go out there and
be promiscuous,
do whoever you want to do with. Be the town whatever, and come back in and then say, hey, let's just kill the baby. They want to do that. Did
anyone ever ask them a question? I'm sorry to cut you off. I just thought, did anyone ever ask them a question? Is it allowed to have marital relationships outside of wedlock? I wonder what their answer to that would be.
No, I think they don't really mention that. But
yeah, I've never seen them mention that.
But they do say that we have to fight this patriarchal understanding of the Quran and this un-Islamic patriarchal understanding of the Quran.
And they have this huge list of people who signed and are part of this.
Yeah, but most of them are nobodies.
Yeah, one of the dude's name is Muhibb al-Liwati. Right?
Let me. Can you read his names?
His name is Muhibb al-Liwati.
Can you send me a link so I can read it? I can't read it. It's too small.
Yeah. Well, I sent you the link.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
So here's one of the reasons why I never promoted that Miss Marvel TV show. So here's a writer for Miss Aisha Bhori. For the Miss Marvel. She's a writer at Miss Marvel. Who else? There's a whole bunch of writers.
A lot of Muslims thought it was a huge
actors. Aziza Fatima, who's an actor.
Let me see this. Hold on. Let me see. Misha Yusuf, podcaster, producer. Aisha Bori, writer. Ms.
By the way, there's hundreds of names.
Sahar Jahani, writer. Again, useless person. Maharang, designer. Look, I'm not gonna go through all the names. Believer. That's what the title is. Believer.
I'm a believer.
Special ed teacher. I think you need some special education. Muslim supporter, action filmmaker, writer, believer, student, filmmaker, human. That's one I add. That's podcast producer.
Band of
That's
losers.
good.
Let's put
founder.
Let's put Sheikh Amir's name in here.
Founder, president.
Try this now.
For Muslims' progressive values. Okay.
Look how embarrassing this is. The fact that they have to put those names on the title, Allah is embarrassing.
Oh, look at this.
Bro.
Adnan Majid, Muslim psychiatrist, Hafid, and hosted the Iqra Quran discussion group.
Wow.
Yeah, look you up. We'll find out who you are. Let me see. Researcher, Muslims for Progressive Values, Boston.
Pakistani.
Yeah, I mean, just nonsense. Is there any scholar
Sam,
here?
what are you doing, bro?
Chaplain?
This is not cool, man. This is not
Bro,
cool.
we did it for the other side, okay? This is called impartiality.
Are we going to do this again, dude?
Sheikh, this is called impartiality.
This is embarrassing.
Oh, check this out. Again.
Being objective, we have to do it to both.
Don't put that on there, bro. Stop that. Don't put that.
Wow, it's not even words having you stop it.
Okay,
wow.
fine. I'm gonna put some other name, okay?
Just put Wajdi. Put him on there.
Don't do that. You guys are messed up.
No, listen to this one. Bira Brisha, Beth Shalom Progressive Synagogue, New Zealand council member. Oh,
I'm pretty sure the devout Jewish community really loves her.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see who else. Electrical engineer. Pilot. Oh, there's a pilot.
So this is my point. More the reason they just put everyone they can because they're not going to get any. Look more.
Oh, look. Taliba Qadri, a truck driver. Monumental support from a truck driver.
More. Listen, before you go any further, more. This list isn't. They tried to make an exhaustive list. They couldn't get any legit scholars.
Razia Siddiq, a human supporter.
What a bunch of idiots, bro. They basically couldn't get anybody, so they just had to put everyone they could fill in, bro.
Basma Halabi, a devout Muslim, not just a Muslim, devout.
Wow.
How dare you? I'm offended you consider yourself
But the name
devout.
Muhib Liwati on there was the best,
I'm
bro.
looking.
Maheen
Wait.
brought that to... Just type it and you'll find it. Maheen brought that to our attention. That was awesome. Lover of...
Oh, look, there's a
sodomy.
business analyst on Project manager.
Wow, you guys, embarrassment. I'm going to do it all the way at the bottom. At least people know her. They should have put her at the top. They put her on the bottom because she's at the bottom.
I am looking at all this right here, and I haven't seen one scholar yet. Not one scholar.
There's not.
I've seen teachers, truck drivers, plumbers, electricians, marine psychologists.
Near the bottom, queer Muslims of Boston.
Losers, bro.
Oh my God, truck driver and curator. Oh wow. Curator of what? I don't want to mention. Hold on. Let me see. I'm just trying to see if there's a funny one down in
There
this.
is. Muhib Liwati takes it all, bro.
Right there, bro. I
Muhib
found it.
Liwati takes it all,
No,
bro.
I know. I'm looking for that one too. But
That's got to be a troll, bro. Why would somebody sign that and be like,
course
yeah,
that
lover of sodomy? Who would say that, bro?
Of course it's a troll shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way somebody would name themselves. Oh, Layla Khan, trans Muslim. That's just one.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Let me see. Nothing
All right,
else
yeah.
really.
Enough. We're not going to
Sticks
spend
out.
too much time with
Yeah.
this.
Okay,
guys.
that's enough. That's enough. We
Amina
went ahead and
Wudud
sent
is a retired professor. Huh. Retired.
went ahead and submitted to Abu Musab al-Waqidi. No, not Waqidi.
What a
Wajidi.
funny name we should put in there, guys. We should sign a funny name.
See if it populates. I think they may have to. The administrator may wait a little bit before. Do you see it populate right away?
Put like Abd in the first name, Abd Qawm al-Huruf.
That's enough. Anything else, boys? What do you guys think for today?
You seem eager to get out of here. You have something
I
to
don't
do,
seem eager to
Shaykh?
get
I
out of
mean, you
here.
were kind of just giddy from the get-go. Is something going
I'm happy
on?
to
Are
see you guys after the.
No, I mean, you seem
after
like
the
you're in a
trip.
hurry. If it's like you want to leave our presence.
I don't want to leave your presence at all. I just.
I mean, your eyes are turning from
I
like
just want to cover
green
more.
to blue. Something's happening here.
Yeah, you guys had your fair share of all those jokes. By the way, traveling with these guys are awesome, but at the same time, what you see on the podcast, imagine all this on steroids when you're traveling with them, bro. Just nonstop.
You know, by the way, me and Sheikh Amr, Sim were just counting out numbers, and Sheikh Amr had no idea.
Yeah, what was up with the number?
So we go ahead, tell them more.
It was everything that Sheikh Amr had a boo-boo. Every time he had a boo-boo.
What does that mean?
Yeah, last time he made a little mistake. And we just started counting them off from the get-go.
I was right. I told you that's what it is. You said it wasn't. So obviously, one other thing we discovered, you lie a lot in your joking.
I didn't joke. I didn't lie.
You did. You're like, no. It's every time you use a certain word. That's what that is.
It was, and that word was that. Oh, I didn't know, or oh, my bad, or something like that. That was.
And what I told these guys is, look, I'm really nice with these guys.
You are.
A lot of times,
nice.
I have to babysit them.
True.
These guys make a load of mistakes, but I don't say anything because I don't want them to feel weird.
That's true.
You know.
But we didn't point it out.
I'm
We
just a
said,
good friend. That's
no,
all
hold
it
on.
is.
But we didn't point it out. We just had numbers.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so we didn't really point it out. We
Yeah.
just because we have love and adoration.
I mean,
for
I'm
you.
slow, but I'm not that slow.
No.
Every time I said something, you guys snickered.
No, because we made it obvious because we wanted to just kind of make it a joke between us, right?
Yeah.
Because you eventually started using one sim, two. You started doing it yourself.
Yeah,
so.
I know I did.
Yes.
But other than that, it was honestly, bro. I hope we get a chance to do a trip like this again. I would love for us to go to Masjid Taqwa together and meet Imam Siraj Wahaj and stay there because he wants us. He's going to be raising funds for them redoing the masjid. Masjid Taqwa is a historic masjid, and I don't know, man. Even if it's just one weekend, I think we should go there and just do like a series of just conversations and vlogs with him, man.
Time for a road trip.
Our boy Amar just put a funny. I don't want to read it out loud, but he put a funny name to put in there. Just.
I'll look at it. On the thing.
Anyways, good one. That's a good one. Honestly, I don't really laugh that much at comments, but that's a good one. It takes a lot for me to laugh like that. But anyways,
But if you see Imam Siraj Wahaj's masjid,
by the way, support it. They're looking
yeah.
for support right now.
Yeah.
They're trying to build and expand. So Masjid Taqwa which is in Brooklyn, I believe. So please, you can find it anywhere. Just type in Imam Siraj Wahhaj Masjid. Everything will come up for it. He's been part of that community. We did promise him that he asked us, we asked him if there's anything that we can do to help you and to, in any way we can do to make your life any easier. And he did say, actually, this is something that's deep to me. It's dear to me. And so if it's dear to the Imam, it's dear to us. And, one thing I would say is this. One thing I was happy to see, a reflection when we got there, is that there's this indigenous African American Muslim community in Baltimore, one of the oldest ones that were there, and they talked about the journey about having to acquire a masjid long before they could even be approved for getting loans or anything like that, because they were black people at that time could not get any funding or aid or anything, and they had to collectively get money and develop this stuff and do it. And they have a new project now, I believe it's called Masjid al-Haq. It is the oldest masjid in Baltimore. And just the history of seeing that, like that, and a lot of times we who are non-black Muslims, we forget that the original Muslim community in America was the African American community. And a lot of these masajids that you see today that are old masajids were originally started by the African American community, and they were taken over by Desi and Arab populations. I mean, maybe not intentionally, but it just happened to be that way because the population size grew. But keep in mind that in the beginning, before 9/11 and in the 80s and 70s, Islam was considered to be the black man's religion, and Christianity was the white man's religion. It's just how it was, right? And so they carried the torch for many, many years, and they still do. And they're still involved in inner city places like in Baltimore and in New York, where these communities are still thriving. You have third and fourth generation African American Muslims who have struggled hard to keep their iman, to protect their communities. And so it's incumbent on us to do everything we can to support them, just like we support other communities and other masajids in your area, because they are truly deserving of it. Like when we talk about how special Imam Siraj Wahhaj is and the effort that he did, not only did he benefit his own community, but for people like us growing up who didn't have a voice that was similar to ours or relatable to us, he was that voice for us growing up. Like he made Islam cool to us. He made it meaning that it was proud to be Muslims, especially in the era we talk about this where that movie Malcolm X came out and everybody wanted to be down with it, but he made it relevant to us, right? And we're indebted to him as an ummah in America. So don't forget about those communities that really put their neck on the line and that really put the work in, who would selflessly move from community to community and fundraise even though nobody was giving a dime to their communities. So let's not abandon them.
That's a great point.
When they need it from us.
Great point. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. All right. That's our show, folks. Make sure you click on the old like button if you haven't done so already. Throw a comment in the comment section below. And if you so choose, help us out on patreon.com/the Madam Lukes. Otherwise, we'll see y'all next time. Assalamu alaikum.